Some clarifications for us. If the GMD of the NNPC should come out to say that the landing cost of petrol is now 171 naira per litre, this automatically means that in the new year you intend to increase the price of petrol. Is that correct?
That is not correct. I think the GMD was very clear in his briefing to the press yesterday that there is no plan, there's no intention to increase the pump price of PMS.
So how long do you think that this situation will be sustained? Because how long can the government sustain over 13 naira per litre subsidy?
Like I said a few minutes ago, it's not something that the government is not aware of. Government is clearly on top of the situation, and at the right time, government will make the decisions that are necessary. If it is considered the appropriate thing to do, government will do it at the right time.
Because right now, just before the situation we are in now, looking at the fuel crisis, Pengasyn went on strike. And then just before that strike set in, it called off the strike, citing talks with the government and the need to have Nigerians enjoy this Yuletide period. But they have given an ultimatum and have given a period to which they will resume that strike, sometimes maybe in the first or second week of next year. What has the government been able to resolve with Pengasyn?
There's a lot of engagement going on at the moment between the unions and the government agencies or the Ministry of Labour. NNPC is also closely involved in all those engagements. So we're also talking to the unions. We're talking to the various parties, operators in the industry who are the subject of the issues that the unions have. So we're optimistic, we're pretty confident that these issues will be resolved in good time to ensure that Nigerians don't go through a second phase of this pain.
Okay, Mr. Obi, I heard you say the NNPC is working to bridge the supply-demand gap. How is that happening? Are you opening up the importation process so that others can bring in the product as well? Or is it still the NNPC that's carrying on with the importation of petroleum product?
Well, others have always been allowed, to import. What has happened is that because of the dynamics of the international cargo market, the price of crude and ultimately its impact on the price of imported fuel, marketers have made the decision not to import at this moment, which is why NNPC today is almost the sole importer of petrol into Nigeria. But the truth is, marketers are free to import when the conditions are right. What will happen, what you'll see happening in the new year is just like we've done. Through December, we've injected an additional 300 million litres of petrol just to meet with this, to deal with this increased demand over and above the normal supply arrangements that we've made for the market. The refineries are also back on stream. 2 of the refineries, they're injecting additional volumes into the market. So NNPC is fully committed to ensuring that this unusual situation that we found ourselves in at this moment, because in normal times, like the GMD said yesterday, the average daily demand for petrol is between 27 and 28 million litres. And today, on average, we're doing about 52 million litres of petrol through all the depots around the country. This is not expected to last forever, for the factors that he shared yesterday.
Okay. Mr. Obi, if I may come in here, I hope you don't mind.
As soon as the panic buying disappears, we expect to see, consumption levels return to the 27, 28, 30 million litres a day levels.
There are concerns, though. I would ask you, is anyone going to be reprimanded for this excess demand that seems to be deliberately orchestrated? But that's on one side. There are concerns, however, that the NNPC may never be able to meet up with the demand because, as you see, it's increasing and the NNPC seems to be grappling here and there to meet up with that. How about opening up the market indeed, as in deregulate, so that these marketers can bring in, because the situation now means they can't bring in and sell at 145. Some of them are even complaining of buying at 170 from the depots, and then you expect them to sell at 145. There's a pegged price for the petroleum products at the pumps. So how do you expect them to be able to bring in? At what conditions will be made right for them to be able to do that and still sell at 145?
Well, like I said, I've said a couple of times now, at the right time, government will make the decisions that, around pricing. But as we stand, as we sit here today, there's no plan, there's no intention to increase the pump price or PMS, and NNPC is meeting with providing all the volumes that the market needs to meet its requirement. The situation we're in is not a normal situation, which is why NNPC has bent backwards to ensure that we provide additional volumes through additional importation. We're doing 300 million liters additional imports of petrol into the market in December, and we're doing the same in January just to deal with this current situation.
Engineer, I want to come in here, and I'm just going to ask you, when we look at the gap that has existed between kind of supply and demand, particularly when you have an anomalous situation like we have now where people are buying double and triple what they ought to, what is the role of Nigeria's strategic reserves? Because yes, we've been told there are these strategic reserves. We don't know how voluminous it is, and we want to know why couldn't these reserves fill in the gaps until more fuel came in to replenish whatever was taken out of the reserves?
The reserves, we have been releasing volumes from the reserves. So part of the product that people are buying at the pump today in various parts of the country are volumes that were in storage before the situation developed. We'll continue to do that for as long as it takes us to normalize the situation. So it's a mix of what the refineries are doing, what we had imported previously, to meet demand, and also the volumes coming out of the strategic reserves.
Are there any plans to increase capacity to reserve fuel products?
Oh yeah, we'll continue to maintain those reserves through time. So as we go through this, as we're depleting them at the moment, we're also working on plans to replenish those reserves.
Engineer, another major issue confronting Nigerian motorists, and this is all around the country, is the apparent inadequacy in terms of the number of personnel of DPR to be able to check the activities of these marketers. And one of the questions is, if we have a situation where marketers are abusing the process in daylight, in front of everybody, is there not a need to engage security agents, intelligence services such as DSS, to try and see how they can help out, even if it's covert, to ensure that these abuses aren't taking place? Is that a possibility? Or is it just going to be limited to DPR for the foreseeable future?
No, we're working with the DSS. I said that earlier.
But in what way? That's what I'm trying to...
Well, they're part of the monitoring teams. They're teams made up of NNPC personnel, DPR, PPPRA, PEF, and the DSS, going around every state, monitoring retail sites or marketers' activities, and applying appropriate sanctions when they do see, violations occur. We're also working with the civil defense teams across the country. So we're working very closely with security agencies.
What I'm really trying to pinpoint on is, can you say that the personnel and the exercise, the operation, is sufficient if we're seeing these abuses in broad daylight? I mean, I was just in Abuja just a day or two ago reporting on this, and you can see in broad daylight these abuses happening, and there's nobody there. And when I'm speaking to you now, it sounds as if everything's under control, DSS is out there with the officials of DPR. But if you talk to the motorists on the street around the country, that's just not the case. How can we bridge that gap?
One of the things which is an enabler as well is the information we get from the public. So the social media has been very helpful in terms of customers' experience at those retail sites. So when motorists or customers flag such retail sites or marketers' locations that are violating pricing and other operational regulations, then these teams move in very quickly to apply the sanctions, to take control of the situation. And like the group managing director has said, you know, all the regulating agencies are out there working on ensuring that the marketers comply, you know, with appropriate guidelines.
Engineer, just want to thank you for coming in on Christmas morning and sharing your insights with us. Standing by, being with us this morning has been the Chief Operating Officer of Downstream for the NNPC, Engineer Henry Ikem Obi. Let's take a short break. We'll be back to you.